enough of that. I'm just here to really explain to you what this whole law means now. And this is where, especially for the dreamers, I hope this is more insightful and a lot more fun. So yes, a good question is, has Mito chose some of your tattoos? Yes, he has. Especially this one. And especially certain ones on my back and stuff. But I think for the most part, it wouldn't be a moment where I wake up and, oh, like I have a tattoo, I wonder who did that. No, it's not like that. It's more like, those are the extremities. So I'm talking about sometimes, if I relate my lows to Mito, you have a version of you that's 100% Mito, right? But imagine, what if you only had 10% of his essence? You still would feel what he was feeling, but you still associate that with something like, oh, I'm depressed, or I'm a little bit sad, or today I feel a little bit spiteful. But if you're 100% of, imagine you took years and years of trauma and years of bad experiences, all the things you felt during those past experiences that you've bottled up or you've comparted deeply into your brain, and you personified that as a character. What would that look like? So I always thought Mito, and it's not a bad thing, because to a lot of people, it's kind of like your guardian. Hence, which is why I bring up the idea of trauma, because people don't know how to process trauma at their given moment in time. It would have to be something big enough for you to not want to process it, but still want to go on with your daily life. So you tend to bury it under the bushes. And you don't even know you bury it, because it's just that much of a shock to you. Anyway, let me bring you to the law now, because, enough of this. This is a lot of where the inspiration has driven from, okay? So, let me just tell you about it. So who is Mito? Mito, again, sorry I keep coming back to this, but let me really just fly through this. Mito is the character that represents my manic lows. And the thing about your manic lows is it's not all that, you don't feel anything. Like, it's nothing. You have, I can't describe it. It's not sadness. It's not, like, you don't feel you feel just empty. Like, if empty was a feeling, could you feel it? Yeah. It's really just flatline. So nor do you have the necessary will to do anything, but you see everything in black and white. And that's why Mito's first EP, the first album, does everyone remember the artwork for the album? It's a smashed glass, right? It's a smashed mirror into different fragments. So that symbolized already that, so if you look into the mirror, right? I think a good thing for people to understand what DID is when you look into the mirror, you just see one version of yourself. A lot of the times for people that have DID, they see different versions, like a broken mirror, different fragments. You're still you. You're still looking at a version of you, but you're looking at a multiple split of versions of you. Does that make sense? So, Mito is the character that I have created based on real life experiences, real life moments. And he has become the epitome of everything that just knows how to deal with shit. And he's portrayed in such a dark light because that is what he's born from. Okay, so now who is Mr. Insanity? Some say Mr. Insanity is Ian himself, which makes a lot of sense because Ian is still Christian Ian, well, same person. I am still me, but when I go manically high, I do get to a point when I go extremely at a very dangerously level high that I sometimes when I come back and I think I didn't black out, but I don't know how I was that same person, because he just almost goes too crazy. Now, Mr. Insanity, I think, and I'm just gonna leave this out there. Some people might even say Miss Insanity is a lot more dangerous than Mitre. How is Insanity a lot more dangerous? Mitre is the protector, the guardian of my consciousness. But Insanity is, I think, the stirrer, the very character that has a lot of power over bringing a lot of stimulus into things. And who has to deal with that shit? Well, you guessed it. So metaphorically, that's kind of the whole plot of the music video. Now, so if you watch So I Dance, okay, now before I get into that, sorry. So what is the other side then? What is this? Welcome to the other side. What is the other side right there? Sorry, it's terrible. It's flipped handwriting. So what is the other side then? So the other side is an existing universe inside the consciousness of the mind. And you can only get there through dreaming. Ironic that we are called Dream Perfect Regime, but no. I'll give you a good example, for example. What the hell does that even mean? So ever since I was a kid, I've always learned how to lucid dream. And I didn't know I was lucid dreaming. That lucid dreaming means you're completely aware that you're dreaming and you have full control over what's happening around in you, in your dream, in the environment. So if you want to fly, you can fly, and yada yada yada. But I think ever since I was a kid, I had so much fun doing that I thought I generated. So for me personally, I got a lot more creative with that way. It was almost like my creative library bank that I've always kept. And the crazy thing about my dreams was it had continuity. So I still remember a lot of the worlds that I visited in these dreams, and a lot of these places that I walked through, and the characters that I played in my dreams. And granted, a lot of the times the dreams could have been influenced by a lot of the things that I grew up watching and looking at. But I've always realized that in my dreams, there were a lot of doors. And every time I would go lucid dreaming, I sometimes would unlock, or I would sometimes go through a door. And this is where it gets crazy, because I would go through the doors so many times and I would end up at so many weird, and sometimes going through the wrong door would turn into a nightmare, for example. And I think through that, I've realized when I come out of these dreams, I had these blackouts. So think of it like this: the longer you stay inside your lucid dreams, the longer you lucid, and the longer you tend to lose a grip of your reality, that's when you hit your manic episodes, I think that's when you really start finding it very hard to associate what's real and what's not. So that's where it gets a little dangerous. But trust me, I've had my fair share. And sometimes I'll deliberately try to sleep more just to be able to experience or see what was beyond certain mountains. The green asteroid, for example, was a huge part of my dream when I was little. Peanut Butter and Tears was the. So I'll give you a context then. So Peanut Butter and Tears, for those that haven't seen it. By the way, we're nearly at 4 million views, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go, dreamers. Peanut Butter and Tears is a glimpse into a lot of these moments where it first started. So Peanut Butter and Tears is the music video is a representation of me when I was a kid, and I wandered through, and that's when I started wandering through these doors. And that's kind of the idea, the visual imagery behind that music video. So what you see in the timeline in terms of this context was Peanut Butter and Tears is kind of like the very early stages of insanity before he turned into Mr. Insanity. So again, recapping this, Ian, you see the very first Ian travel through these doors in Peanut Butter and Tears. Hence you see the young youthfulness, but he's not crazy yet. He's not the Mr. Insanity that we all know him to be. Well, I'm not sure how much you know about him, but for me anyway. So that's why, he still has relatively black hair, and it's just kind of like tapping back into that idea of where it really all started. And I decided to really bring up this concept because it was as real as day to me, Hello. Okay, so now we get to the general storyline of what Mr. Insanity is. Dear Insanity, this new EP that's about to drop, pretty soon. If you know the dates, put it down. Sorry. So this Insanity is about the very origins of how insanity became insanity. So along the way, Ian travels to the other side being the consciousness, universe that exists in your consciousness that you could only tap into through your dreams. And the very first door he walks into, he gets a glimpse of this world that he had no idea that existed, right? Now bear with me now. So in this moment, he goes down this crazy path of trying to understand where he's at until he realizes he can't leave or he doesn't know how to get back out. And I think that's kind of when he realizes he's almost doomed, because the longer he stays in this universe, the longer he, I guess, seamlessly ceases to exist on the external world. But I'm just gonna put it out there. I'm not gonna tell you what happens. We've already mapped this out. But if I spoil it now, I think it's just it's not gonna be the point. But anyway, so this is the very first origins of him traveling to the other side, and in the other side are towns and things that are made of mythical, fantasy, mythology, any type of things that you would imagine in a dream and a nightmare to exist. And funny enough, who dwells there? Who dwells in the very consciousness of my universe, of my mind? It's Mito. So some might say Mito is the guardian angel, right? The guardian angel or the fallen angel. And that we will find out later in the storyline. But for those who know, they know already. But anyway, so in So I Danced, you see Mr. Insanity come across a city called Emerald City, and he is with the Green. By the way, is a character that we are further developing. It's a very core character, I would like to say, but that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to really tell you what that character is based on. So now you have the versions of Mr. Insanity and Mito in this timeline. Mind you, Mito 2 and Mito 1, Mito 2's movie, if you guys seen Mito 2, the movie, that's in the most present timeline. That's when Insanity became his full extreme insanity self, and Mito is on the clock to really stop him. So that is the future Insanity before he really loses his mind. And if you see glimpses of how Insanity looks in the future, he's completely blind because he has now fallen to the other side, and he's completely succumbed to his insane powers, and almost to the point where he no longer can see. because the universe he believes is to be on him. And that's why when he takes his jacket off, you see lights and all these sparkles and things. So he's comprised of all these characters. And where does Mida 1 fit now? Like, so beautiful Mida and everything. So he creates versions of himself to by harnessing the power of the other side. Because again, this is why I say the manic highs are extremely dangerous, because you don't know when to stop. Some things are better left unturned, but you always have somebody to clean up your job for that. Okay, so I recommend you guys watch that. That's kind of the very present Mr. Insanity that you see in the Mida movie. Now we go back to this version. So we're here at Dear Insanity, the very moment where Ian first makes his trip to the other side. And he turns into, and he finds a way to somehow not be able to get out. And then the longer he dwells, and the longer he goes deeper into his consciousness, the more things he unravels about himself and about things that he's forgotten about. But those all in all can be harmful, or it could be straight up just wackadoodle, like it just makes you go crazy. So Emerald City was a kind of reference to obviously the Wizard of Oz. Wizard of Oz was one of the films that I've absolutely freaking was inspired by ever since I was a kid. And I remember during one of my dreams I did go to the Emerald City. However, it's not as you depict it in the in the movie itself. It's just how I kind of imagined it to be when I revisited that place. So Emerald City really does exist within my thing, because it was a direct relation to the experiences I had when I was younger. So everything you see, right, everything you see on screen is as real as day to me. I haven't created anything in a metaphoric sense to anything else other than the experiences that I've had. So for example, right, like the whole idea of insanity is he's a clown. He is literally a clown. And you know, some might say it's ironic because it might be like a direct reference to my older idol group called C Clown. But no, Insanity, I've always considered myself the class clown when I was a kid. And as clowny as you can get, clowns tend to just not like forget about a lot of things, and they just they want to make you laugh, right? They want to bring a lot of joy and happiness into your life. So they go to the extremities of even doing crazy and fatal stunts, in my mind at least anyway. When I see the circuses and stuff like that, they do a lot of crazy shit that want to give you the idea that they're entertaining you, or trying to please you to the utmost. But what if Insanity gets a little, he bites too much, then he bites too much to handle, too much that he can chew, bites off too much then he can chew, something like, okay, you know what I mean. Fuck, I can't remember that. Anyway, so what happens if he does that? Then you see the insanity taking place. His sanity is being sapped away, and you end up with a version where it's a lot more scary and a lot more intense than Mido. Mind you, I can't snap into Mido. I don't know how to. I don't know how to change my identity all of a sudden and all of a sudden click into Mido. I don't know how that works. I've never done that before. For me, what happens is I go to a very manic high state. Once I get to a very manic high state, and it doesn't always happen, and something triggers me in that state, insanity changes to Mido. And it's funny because that's the only way that you can turn into Mido. It's kind of like, I can kind of tell you, it feels like something big is about to happen. You get like a sense. You know, for example, I was about to board a plane the other day, and I just felt something like stirring inside me. I felt something extremely bad was going to happen, and it's not like some type of intuition, premonition type of shit. It's just something like, oh, it feels like there's going to be an earthquake. Oh, it feels like something is stirring up inside you, and you don't know what it is. But usually you tend to get that feeling when you're in your extreme highs, and you're not thinking straight, and your words are jumbled, and you know you lose a whole sense and track of time and context of place. And it's only then that there's a transitional period where insanity turns into martyr. And the whole idea is so then when that happens and I come out of martyr, for example, it's as if I'm now looking at the chaos that has been unfolded, has been left out right in front of me, and I have to now process that. It's kind of like an anxiety attack. However, it's some people tend to get an anxiety attack. The way I see it is I black out. I don't know. I mean, maybe that could be better or worse. I don't know. So it's you know, I'll put that out there. That's this is just the idea, just real personal experiences of what I go through. You know, fuck it, I'll just put it out there. So that's kind of what it really entails, the whole idea and this storyline concept. So where are we now? So okay, Mr. Insanity. He's now on the run. He's found a psychic or a friend, and he has to now pass through the door, right? He realizes the mayor, or the person that's running the town, goes by the name of Mido. So we know that we're in the other side. If you look, by the way, go check out So I Dance, guys. Let's get it to a meal. Let's get to a meal, because there's so many people that worked way too hard for this, and it would mean the world for us. So anyway, okay, we're going back to So I Dance. So we just see this heist being planned and a robbery of some type of metal case where Insanity and his friend, we called him the Green, but it could be anything. And there's a very special idea of why it's called the Green. But again, I'm not going to dive into too much. If I do, my team will kill me. But everything is intentional. Everything is intentional. Wasn't Mido an angel? It's a good question. So why is Mido, you gotta ask yourself this, why is Mido depicted as an angel? And if he is, why is he depicting himself as a fallen angel? And is that, or is somebody lying? Scaredy Cat is how the hell am I asking? So again, now that you know all of this, if you revisit a lot of my music videos, you'll understand. And a lot of times why people might, a lot of times I hear, oh, you're such a good actor or something and stuff. But a lot of times people don't realize I'm not acting, and it's something that I can't. If I'm not Mido, for example, for certain moments, I like to think I time a lot of these moments where I start switching. And when I do switch, it might not be 70 or 80%. There'll be a thing that I do where I don't recommend, but there's like certain rituals that I do where I look in the mirror, and I usually do this before I go on stage, because I had a hard time a long time ago being myself on stage. And I know that sounds so like contradicting to what I'm trying to do along this life, but I'm trying to get people to understand that even with all of this, if I was to be completely real with you guys, there are certain protocols that I have to also take in order for me to even go out on certain stages or certain events, or sometimes I'll just come out of one of my dips and I have to be going in an interview. But I'm only just starting to learn to get comfortable in my own skin. And the reason is because I know I'm going to switch again. Not because I don't have anything to love about myself. It's because I know that I'm not going to be me or when I switch again. And I know it's going to happen. It's inevitable. Like there's no way of not switching. So for me, it's like learning to coexist with that. You might think, oh, it's such, like it saps so much out of you. I'll tell you one of the biggest things that happen is when I come out from a switch, it feels like I've ran a marathon. Like it feels like I've been running for about 7 or 8 days. So my mind is completely scattered. My body's completely drained because your brain is constantly on overdrive, and that's kind of really the end result of what I come out to. So it takes me a few days more than before because I'm getting older now to come back to my original senses. Does that make sense, ladies and gentlemen? It takes a lot more for me to come back to myself. But when I do, I stop now and I think, what is the last thing I remember? And sometimes it'll be from a week ago. And fortunately enough for me, I have enough good people around me to support me switching. And I suggest to everyone that might have a friend, or if you are going through this, you need very supportive people. If not two, one is enough, I think. Enough for them to care about or understand or at least put up with a lot of the things that you might switch into. And it's completely fine. I'm just telling you, it's completely fine. So again, I keep going back to this, but again, now we're here at the other side. Dear Insanity is, again, Ian making a full trip to the other side, a universe that exists in the consciousness, in the dreamlike state of the mind. But technically, in all sense, it's the consciousness. So whatever happens there, whatever things you've kept unlocked and comparted away is going to be there. But behind which door, I do not know. And behind what door, like which door is what, we do not know. Right? But however, he does discover an entity called Mito. But the only difference with this entity is it looks somewhat like him. It looks somewhat like him. And the more and more we develop the story, the more and more they realize they have things either in common or they start undiscovering really dark truths about one another. And again, it's a crazy story. I'll give you this. It's a freaking crazy story. I can't believe we're just here at So I Danced. Me and my team, we've developed this story based on obviously personal experiences, but we developed this whole story and franchise to about another 10 years, to be completely honest. And you're just now beginning to see the cusp of the characters of Insanity and how he turns into insanity. So the more we develop the story, the more you see him go crazy and crazy and crazier. And I'll tell you this now, if you get scared, then yes, that is exactly what Insanity feels like. He is quirky, fun, and extreme, but one wrong, essence of Mito, one wrong taste of something that's spoiled can turn that insane, quirky, and funny, screw it type of character into, alright, screw it. Like just burn the world type of, cease the world. I think that would be a more suitable terminology in this case. But it's a very interesting thing because conceptually, it's like a superhero to villain type of concept. But in a more realistic sense, it's really based on someone's consciousness that is developing right before your eyes, you're witnessing somebody's trauma. I know that sounds extreme, but hear me out now. The reason why I am extremely just full forward into this is because I know it will give so many people a lot more insight onto whether you have or you don't have this disorder. You'll get enough insight into what these characters feel and look like to one person and such. And if anyone could relate to certain developments of a certain characteristics for certain characters, it might give you a good understanding of like what it really goes through. So I watched a reaction video, by the way. Oh, by the way, I love the reaction videos. You should absolutely keep throwing them out there. Thank you. You should absolutely keep them throwing out there. But I watched this reaction video where this person stated that what they're seeing right now, if Maida was to destroy Insanity, I think she said, it would seem a little too scary because she knows that it's exactly what's happening in my mind right now. So what you experience and what you see is the exact reflection, and it's kind of like a time capsule of what I already have or am going through, but for the most part, it's already have going through. Or so yeah, everything that I haven't been through, I can't put out there. Just disclaimer, everything that I haven't been through, if I haven't reached a state of enlightenment of dealing or being able to understand my highs and lows and learn how to bring them together, for the most part, I'm at a point where they're at war. It really does feel like that. It feels like I'm at war. Like if I'm Maida would say shit about Insanity, and if Insanity comes out, he would say shit about Maida. So it's like vice versa. But we're at that point where I haven't even learned how to coexist with them, you know? So for me to even put that out there, it would be hypocritical because I haven't even learned to do that. So everything that you see has already been unfolded or am going to unfold in future contexts. Does that make a lot of sense?